Hallo miteinander, I'm Geshady6 and this is Tenjou no Tempest. Last time, things literally went to hell, as Yukari sent us down to Kyuji-goku, the former hell. However, the double D-sized demon has made a grave mistake. She sent Nua down here with us, who happens to know her way around these parts. Now that we share a common enemy, we can bury the hatchet and form an alliance of misfits. If you're still mourning the loss of our previous guide, Tay, I was only joking that she was eaten. She might as well be though, because, gigantic spoiler, from this point on, she does not appear in the game anymore. Yeah, our lucky rabbit really didn't amount to much now, did she? We are 4 levels in, and we have not really achieved anything, nor have we gotten much wiser. Sounds bad, I know, but if you look at official Toho games, nothing of real relevance tends to happen until at least the 4th stage, so if you think about it, we really shouldn't be all that discouraged. No, we shouldn't. We need to be in high spirits to face the residents of hell. Among them are the water spouting Hidama, who can be very annoying if they sit somewhere above you. A simple solution against them is picking them off from a distance. But what also works to disrupt their constant rain is to dash right through them. Doing so will usually provoke them into using an aimed shot against you. That may sound dangerous, but dodging it is the only way to get an activation on them, as we can see just here. In the end though, they're really not all that dangerous, nor are these icicle fairies, who we have already seen in stage 3 before. Among my most hated enemies, however, are these bullet streaming spirits. If you're having the same trouble as I, here's a super that can really help against them. This one is especially unique in that it is not an attack at all, but a temporary buff. Temperament, State of Enlightenment. If you have played a fan game called Labyrinth of Toho, you might know a buff of the same name from that one. The one in Tenjou no Tempest is different. It increases both your defense and attack power, and will give you a special property called Super Armor. Super Armor prevents any hit stun or knockback that you would suffer, except from the most vicious of attacks. Flattening the streaming spirits with that should be a piece of cake. Making it to the second segment means things will get a little bit more complex, as we now have switches to find. This map may be the most non-linear one in the game, but I wouldn't go so far and call it a maze, at least not one of the terrible kind. Nonetheless, it may not always be clear where you will have to head next. What you have to keep in mind for this is that finding the switches is not all that it takes. Some of them will also close doors on you. At other times, doors can be pretty far apart from their corresponding switches, so you'll have to go search for them too. All while dealing with a multitude of enemies, of course, among them even more streaming spirits. You might have noticed that their bullets often swap color and size. The point of that is that only when they are blue will your dodges achieve an activation on them. So yeah, it's a matter of timing too. Another reason why I'm no friend of theirs. But you know, for being called hell, this place is kinda fun. I enjoy this stage. There's even secrets about, like this fault line here. A reward for keeping a lookout and not going too fast. We almost missed it too. It would have been such a shame, as we really need that energy. If you've checked the forums, you know that we are ditching more and more cheap shots for really expensive ones. Now here's something fun to do. That was Sin Carving Sword, the active skill that I mentioned all the way back in episode 2. It was also the second time we ever used it. One cool thing to note about that move is that the game does class it as a sword attack. And that means that just like your normal slashes, you can use it to cause weather. Just up ahead, the stage will really start testing our cunning. Up there is a switch that seems unreachable at first, but if you go against your gamer's instinct, you will find out that Tenchi has no problem summoning a keystone past a solid wall. But there's even more where that came from. The only way to get past both barriers here is to press the purple switch from in between them. Now I admit that that is no rocket science, but it's still a pleasant stimulus for problem solving, and another testament that Tenjou no Tempest is no simple brawler. Remember the very first episode where I gushed awkwardly about the Inaba rabbits? I said that there were enemies that I liked even more, and it's these girls. Why? Because they are just so awesomely swag. They move extremely slowly, but not because they are, but because they choose to. They are Oni, a species of monster known for their competitive playfulness, incredible alcoholic consumption, and simple minds. I simply can't hate them. And why would I? They don't hate us back. They are delighted to have someone around that they can slam into the ground, as evident from their initial emoticon. That musical note means amusement. So, we've been having some elevator action for a bit now. This part isn't all that dangerous, as long as you are no lazy slouch and kill the enemies quickly as they appear. Scrolling segments like these tend to feel a little bit lengthy, and this one isn't the most exciting too, but there isn't really anything you can do about it. Even when you're getting impatient, don't jump off the platform, that of course kills you. After a while, enemies appear that I like to call trap spirits. If you kill them, they will burst into bullets. One sensible option is of course to ignore them, as their attacks are mostly irrelevant. If their numbers do overflow, one thing you can do is use the Sword of Hiso. That attack is the only one that does not make them burst. I know it's often an impractical tool due to its long attack animation, but in situations like these, you should favor it. It's time to face another one of these lovelies. They have such a fun way of fighting you, often just standing in front of you, not doing anything, playing mind games to make you nervous. They have so much personality, so very much. The best way to get an activation on them is to actually keep your distance. That will usually provoke them into using their jump kick, far easier to counter than their quick punches. Once that one is defeated, the ride ends and we move on to the next segment, the one that I personally find to be the hardest of the stage. This is a very unsafe place due to the boiling lava down below us. Stepping into it will drain your health in a matter of seconds. Thinking about it, that still makes it less deadly than any of the bottomless pits we have encountered in the past. What really makes this segment so difficult is the heinous enemy placement. Which enemies? Streaming spirits, of course. One of our shots is well suited for handling them, the Bonten grenade. The ultimate spread type is an arcing weapon with magnificent power and a respectable blast radius. To boot, it sports an especially high amulet damage multiplier that makes it particularly good on bosses. I really am a huge fan of it, which may be a bit surprising given the less than favorable reputation of arcing weapons. For this one, however, all it takes is some getting used to its flight path, and you have yourself a really amazing tool. One fact that makes this area as tough as it is that you can't just leave it. Your first objective is to find a switch in the very lower right corner. Reaching that switch by the low route is not a hard task, but in the end, you're gonna be barred from the exit by this infernal plum of streaming spirits. One big recommendation that I have for you is to use the State of Enlightenment just about here. An advice that I should have followed myself, but it was not my only mistake. Witness this incredible mess of missing spectacularly and getting hit like a fool. It might have looked like it was all the Bonten grenade's fault, but no, do not mistake it for the rock from Friday the 13th. I really just lost my cool there, and that's it. We might have been lucky enough to catch our breath here, but the damage we took was just so bad that for the first time we fell into the critical zone. Now we all know that games with a regenerative health system are very forgiving when it comes to small mistakes, but you should learn to play this one very smoothly. The rate at which you recover is fairly sluggish, so playing poorly and overconfidently will really slow you down. But I think we should be okay now. Had we not been, that surely would have just killed us. Yeah, we phased right through that log. They can be a bit glitchy. Oh well, maybe it'll get fixed one day. There are rumors of an update for this game, implementing a boss rush mode and a lunatic difficulty. I'm especially excited for the latter. Let's hope it happens. Now we've been very courteous to these Oni, fighting them all fairly. If you just want to steamroll them, you can use this shot, the ultimate sniping type, Bavagra Ballista. It has the disadvantage of taking very long to lock on, but it really packs a punch, so much that it sends the Oni flying face first into the dirt. Not even our Sword of Hiso has that much stopping power, and that's for close combat. Really shows how excessively mighty the Ballista is. But might isn't what we need right now, as we are in for another weather puzzle, linked to this greater ice fairy, this wannabe Tyranno. As you can see, getting her effect will freeze hell over. All you folks betting against that ever happening, don't you feel silly now? Now we really have to get a move on, as this effect doesn't last long like all the others, just barely long enough to make it. Tenji must already be fed up with this place. The sticky sulfurous air is probably dreadful for her. I imagine her peaches all mushy and shriveled up. I am talking about the one on her hat, not what you thought, pervert. You know who you are. Anyway, we are very close to the end now. There is just one more Oni to bitch slap out of the way to freedom. There. Get out of here. Oh, did I say one? I meant of course two. How dare I forget Hell's most feared. The #1 champion of all weight classes. Hoshiguma... Yugi. I'm sorry, her proper name is of course Yugi. Just like Nua before her, she confronts us for amusement, but her motivation is less malevolent. Drilling her meaty fists into Tenji's face is just an Oni's way of wishing you a good morning. All she wants is to rise up to a new challenge. Feel the thrill of battle. And she does indeed respect us, for she even set aside her sake dish. A privilege that some lowly humans did not receive. Now Yugi's fighting style will seem very direct and unimaginative to you. What can I say, she is a bruiser through and through, all brawn over brains. Nonetheless, she is frighteningly strong, very durable, and her techniques can cause wide collateral damage. Her initial lack of agility may tempt you into relying on shots, but you shouldn't completely. If she ever gets the impression that you're picking on her from range, she will dash for you to cover the distance in an instant. And that can certainly catch you in a bad moment. Listen up, pro tip when using Peerless Blade, actually hit something with it. If that did, Yugi probably wouldn't have made it out of that amulet break. Oh well, didn't slow us down all that much. Take that, you thingy from Japanese mythology. Oni often gets loosely translated as ogre. Well, they are bulky man-eaters, but they are also the residents of hell. So another good way to describe them would be lesser devils. I mean, can Shrek do this? I highly doubt he can. This spell card isn't particularly tricky in my opinion, but you need some good timing if you want to beat it quickly for a high bonus. Because you see, an activation can only be caused at the very moment when Yugi forms a new ring. Getting in for the slash is normally not too dangerous, unless too many rings intertwine. If so, it's better to hold back like we did with the second to last one. You know what my greatest fear in this fight is? Doing too well. Yes, we want to purposefully fail a qualification for a certain final spell card here. I have reached the one in question exactly once before, and I died, most horribly so. I believe the condition is never getting hit by her 1-2 combo, so what you're seeing here, completely intentional. Oh yeah, look at that suckage. We almost took it a little bit too far, that was very close for comfort. As mentioned, Yugi hits like a truck, but only if you give her the chance to do so. Oh well, this is a suitable time to fool around with her. It's an easy to see through pattern where it shouldn't be a problem to recover. So yeah, doing badly on purpose to have an easier time. Kind of backwards, isn't it? I think it's the wise thing to do though. Believe me, that alternate spell card is something else. Especially if you don't know what awaits you, it will most likely end very, very painfully. By the way, any last spell that is not featured in the Let's Play, we will see in a bonus episode at the very end. Well, what are you gonna do now, Yugi? Stomp your foot in frustration? Oh, well, I guess that's somewhat effective. During the fourth phase of the fight, our opponent fights much like she did at the very start of the battle, except that she now has the ability to catapult us up into the air if we ever dare to stand on the higher end of the seesaw. One thing to note about the lava on the edges is that it is not just a danger, but also a chance. Yugi might be a lesser devil, but she's not Satan or anything. She doesn't hot tub in that stuff. So, if you can lure her or knock her into it, you will deal some nice extra damage. Looks like she's all at our mercy now. Just a little bit more. Can we do it? Well, no, not quite. We'll have to be a bit more patient. The Bonten grenade is an excellent choice of weapon here. Its arcing properties are very good on any kind of slope, whereas straight firing shots in comparison would never hit on distance. Oh, and the rocks that fall whenever Yugi stomps her foot, they can actually be used for an easy activation. It feels almost like a freebie. So provoking her to fling you upwards, not as bad an idea as you'd think. Since we worked so hard for it, we are of course given the easy spell card. Had we not, Yugi would have made an all-ominous scene here. The idea behind this one should be pretty clear. Don't jump. At least not too high. That stuff up there, kind of unhealthy. Much better than jumping is of course luring Yugi and dashing past. But when you do that, keep in mind your spirit orbs, you don't want to run out. Apart from that, same old, same old. So yeah, this fight as a whole, it's not a wake-up call like the one against Nuwa was, but it's very enjoyable. It feels really close and personal. I do feel sorry for the mean things I said about Yugi, so in return, I thank her for a duel between equals. Interesting little tidbit about final spell cards. You cannot achieve amulet breaks on them, except for that very one we just saw. It was a fierce bout, but we emerged victorious. As for Yugi, she doesn't seem shaken at all. Well, it was just a game for her, no need to go all out. Now that Yugi has had her share of fun, she will let us pass without a grudge, and probably go somewhere to get drunk as a skunk. What can I say? That's the way of the Oni. As for the continuation of our quest, there's an exit to the foot of Yokai Mountain just up ahead. I suppose it was a smart move to put our faith into Nue. Oh, and if you're wondering about Yugi, she did not have any links or knowledge about the incident. She's most likely able to cause earthquakes if she wants to, but no, that was not the case. This episode went pretty smoothly, all things considered, but next time our skills will really be put to the test. I'm Gish86. This was Tenjou no Tempest, and next time we're gonna try and take down a god. Can't be much harder than it sounds, right? Bis bald!